Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 3:30 p.m. in Britain, 12:30 in Bermuda, and 9:30 a.m. in Mexico City. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. The White House is on a full-scale offensive to push President Obama's budget, and in fact, they confirmed yesterday that he will appear tomorrow night on the Jay Leno Show, late-night television in the United States featuring the President of the United States. Now to our main news. It's the President again, this time extraordinarily upset about the AIG bonuses. In an impromptu, off-the-cuff series of remarks made yesterday at a small business conference, the President said that he had ordered his Treasury Secretary to take all legal measures to stop AIG from paying millions of dollars of bonuses. AIG says that it is in fact contractually obligated to pay $165 million in the bonuses. Obama, however, said under these circumstances, referring to the taxpayer bailout, it's hard to understand how derivative traders at AIG warranted any bonuses, much less $165 million in extra pay. He continued saying, how do they justify this outrage to the taxpayers who are keeping the company afloat? Treasury apparently will now modify a planned $30 billion capital infusion for AIG to recoup the bonuses. Edward Liddy, AIG's chairman and CEO, told the Treasury Secretary Geithner in a letter over the weekend that the insurer had to make the 2008 employee, quote, retention payments, but he agreed to revamp its system for future bonuses after the administration objected. Liddy, of course, tomorrow is going to be in front of the congressional hearing on the Government Operations Committee chaired by Representative Paul Kanjorski, and he's going to be grilled over the bonuses as well as Sunday's disclosures that billions of dollars of taxpayer money has already been paid to investment firms, European banks, and various other institutions. Barney Frank, the chairman of the House Banking Committee, got into the act this morning on television. He said, referring to the AIG executive, these people may have a right to their bonuses, but they don't have a right to their jobs forever. He said the federal government now is the 80% owner of AIG. One of the things we can do is to make sure this doesn't happen again. Also getting into the act is the Attorney General of the state of New York. That would be Andrew Cuomo. Mr. Cuomo has indicated that he, in fact, is of the belief that serious legal as well as business consequences claimed by Liddy for not paying the bonuses are, in fact, somewhat specious. Mr. Cuomo said no one is trying to micromanage AIG, but we do want fairness. The Attorney General told the company he wanted information about the retention bonus contract to be submitted to his office by 4 p.m. yesterday, or he would issue subpoenas and seek, if necessary, to enforce compliance in court. At 4 p.m., no information had been produced, and he called a teleconference indicating we're issuing subpoenas as we speak. The Attorney General asked Mr. Liddy to show him the contracts that you now claim obligate you to make these payments. Cuomo said that he asked for information on who negotiated the contracts and who developed the retention plan. Cuomo said that he understood that the bonus checks, in fact, had been mailed Friday, and the company was taking the position that because they're in the mail, it's now a moot legal question because the horse is out of the barn. Cuomo said that he thought a case could be made that the contracts were a fraudulent conveyance. He said if the company, in signing the contracts, was paying money it didn't have, quote, and they knew or had reason to know that the financial landscape was changing, you could argue that they were fraudulent conveyances. Also getting into the act this morning was the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, Connecticut Senator Christopher Dodd, who said at first blush his initial reaction to this was to propose some sort of tax that would recoup the bonuses. In the United States, this is causing unbelievable resentment and anger on the part of talk show radio hosts as well as politicians. In some economic news, finally, boosted by an 82% increase in the construction of apartment buildings, American housing starts surged 22% in February to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 583,000. It was the first jump in 8 months. previous to this, in February, in the previous 3 months before February, starts had plunged 38%. Economists had forecast a further drop of 456,000. Instead, they got an up of 583,000. Permits for single-family units rose 11% to 373,000, which is the largest percentage gain in 18 years. And also news today that German investor confidence has unexpectedly risen to the highest level in almost 2 years. The ZEW Center for European Economic Research in Mannheim, Germany, said that its index of investor and analyst expectations increased, still in the negative, but it increased to -3.5% from -5.8%. Economists had expected it to drop all the way down to -8%. The European Central Bank, of course, on March 5th lowered its key rate by 50 BPs down to 1.5%. And the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has agreed to spend about $104 billion to stimulate economic growth in Germany. The stock market is a little choppy. It's down about less than 1 point right now. And yesterday was riding high. It was up about 150 points with about an hour to go, but then there was a sell-off. We'll now go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news. This, of course, is a picture of U.S. Airways Flight 1549 back in January. You will well recall the heroics of the captain, Sully Sullenberger, in making sure the plane landed relatively safely and everybody got out alive. Well, there's a little interesting sidelight coming. New York Waterway, the company that operates commuter ferry service between New York City and New Jersey, is on the verge of bankruptcy. What does that have to do with Flight 1549? Crane's New York Business reports that New York Waterway is in dire need of financial rescue, saying that their situation is so precarious that the company is preparing a lawsuit against U.S. Airways to recoup the